The finalists for the MVP award this season were released a few days ago, and while James Harden is having an outstanding year leading the NBA in scoring, it seems to have been a two-horse race between LeBron James and Giannis Antetokounmpo. However, over the past few weeks, especially prior to the NBA's restart in Orlando, there's been an idea circulating in the NBA community that LeBron James is not even a worthy candidate of this award. Many people are saying that due mainly to stats, Anthony Davis is the most valuable player on his team, and that LeBron James can't win the award if he's not even the MVP of the Los Angeles Lakers. So I decided to take a look into it and see if this is a legitimate claim or if it's just nonsense. Let's get into it. First and foremost, Anthony Davis is a top 5 player in the NBA. This is not something that should be refuted or debated. The major reason that people are saying that Anthony Davis is the real MVP of the Los Angeles Lakers is because of his ability to produce such great numbers offensively and defensively. This is the tweet that I think best summed up this notion that AD is the real MVP. Averages more points per game, more rebounds per game, more steals per game, more blocks per game, fewer turnovers per game, higher field goal percentage, higher free throw percentage, higher true shooting percentage, higher PER, higher box plus minus, more win shares per 48 minutes, all in fewer minutes per game. I'm not gonna lie, I mean that's a pretty sound argument. I mean, it makes sense that someone could say, oh, he's clearly the more important player, the more valuable player. However, Davis for his career is an extremely, and I mean extremely, productive player. His career PER number is the highest all time for a player not named Michael Jordan or LeBron James. So we've seen that he's put up monster numbers. However, this production may not lead directly to wins or postseason success. Now, that's not to take away anything from Anthony Davis. His leads show how incredible of a player he is. I'm just trying to say that production is not always the go-to look at what makes a player valuable for a team. Now, the second most important part of comparison between the two players and their stats is that Anthony Davis and LeBron James, like the lead Anthony Davis has on these certain stats, it's a bit over-exaggerated. The margins, some of them are very slim. Like points per game is less than a single free throw in difference. When you look at rebounds per game, a difference of less than 2 when one player is on the block the entire game and the other player is playing point guard this season. It just shows that Anthony Davis is incredible and LeBron is pretty good or very good at certain things. He's not necessarily dominating those statistical categories. Whereas when you look at the assists per game, one of the few stats that LeBron actually leads, he's dominating compared to Anthony Davis. He averages over 3 times the amount of assists at 10 a game to AD's 3. It just shows a more exaggerated difference between the two players' game rather than certain stats that are very, very close. At the very least, LeBron James and Anthony Davis have equal importance to the Los Angeles Lakers, and you can see that in both of their games. LeBron James now has someone who can hold a lot more of the offensive load that he really had to hold on his own for the past couple of years, and you can see that now turn around in his ability to have more energy on the defensive end of the ball. He guards the opposition's best player at the end of games. He's running and diving for loose balls. He's taking charges, being more physical. It's definitely benefited LeBron a lot more physically and allows him to play more and better basketball and save himself, especially down for the playoffs. And you can see how Anthony Davis benefits as well, as no one has been able, aside from Rondo, to pass him such pinpoint passes off the catch and pick and roll, off lobs. And all of a sudden, he leads the NBA in assists. That's not a random coincidence. 27% of all of his assists this season come off of him passing the ball to Anthony Davis. 33% of all of his made field goals this season come off of a pass from LeBron James. So they're both definitely looking better in the stats category from playing with each other. As I said, they're a dynamic 1-2 punch, and the Lakers need them. And when I say they need them, they need them. If you look at points scored and assisted on for LeBron James and Anthony Davis combined, they are 67% of the entire Los Angeles Lakers offense this season. 67%. And if one of these guys is not on their games in the playoffs, they're definitely going to pay the price for it. That being said, the numbers are cool, but if you just pay attention to how this team plays, it's clear that LeBron James is the MVP of this team. The team is built completely around him. If you look at teams like Milwaukee with Giannis and the Rockets with James Harden and now Russell Westbrook, the team is built on these main guys doing what they do and then having shooters around them. It's mainly built as LeBron James to be the primary playmaker, which is one of the reasons why he has so many assists, because he has the ball in his hands. But the offense revolves around him, especially now that Rondo is injured and out and may not return for a while. There's no real backup playmaker, and LeBron James has to create the majority of his offense. The major and probably only weakness in Anthony Davis's game is that he cannot really set himself up for his own shots. The majority of his shots come off of other players passing him the ball and being assisted. LeBron James can get his own shot off. Other players can get their own shots off, but AD can't really do that. This LeBron system, also known as an over-reliance on LeBron James, historically has shown us when LeBron James is not on the floor, the team's offense stalls and it falls apart. They quickly go into deficits, they start losing games, and they can't really work without LeBron James there because he is the system. They need him to be there to run that offense. It revolves around him. And we've seen that on the Lakers too. In the 3 games where LeBron didn't play and AD did play, they played Houston, Denver, and the Golden State Warriors. They beat the lowly Golden State Warriors, this team, that's what they're supposed to do. But when they played Houston and Denver, both games were blowouts for Houston and Denver, and Anthony Davis didn't really play well. If you paid attention to that game against the Rockets in the bubble where LeBron sat, you could see that all it took was, mind you, this is a small team, the smallest team in the league. All they have to do is double team Anthony Davis, force him to take bad shots. The rest of the team, they're going to have to carry the load, and the shots weren't falling. There's no backup playmaker with no Rondo. There's really nothing they can do but dump it down to AD. So if AD can't bring them to the promised land, which historically we've seen that he can't do, their ceiling is as far as he can take them, which I believe is the Pelicans or worse than that. Whereas LeBron, without Anthony Davis, has fared a lot better. He has a plus-minus of 51 in the 7 games he played without him, excluding the last game against the Kings where he only played the first half. It played for nothing. Doesn't really matter. He lost to Indiana by 3 and they lost to Orlando by 1, but they beat 3 other playoff teams. They beat Golden State just like Anthony Davis did, but they blew out Dallas, they beat Houston, and they beat the Pelicans. AD and shooters is not going to get you a championship. It's not going to get you wins. But LeBron James without Anthony Davis, it's still the LeBron system. It may not be as effective. You may not have a dominant second option, but he's 5-2 without AD. They beat 3 playoff teams in those games. LeBron can carry a team. We've seen this. They can fare without Anthony Davis more than they can deal with the loss of LeBron James. Ultimately, it just comes down to the fact that both of these guys, LeBron James and Anthony Davis, are top players, all-time great players, especially at their position, that they're both going to have to play extremely well if they want to make a championship run, especially in this stacked Western Conference. But when it comes down to who's more valuable, the stats and stuff is cool, and as I said, AD has a lot of leads, but he doesn't necessarily dominate on those leads. It's more of a great to good versus a great to bad comparison. And then when you factor in the fact that this offense and the team basically runs around LeBron James' ability and his playmaking, you see that the only answer you can come up with this situation is that LeBron James is the MVP of the Los Angeles Lakers. That being said, thank you for listening. Like, subscribe, and comment who you think should win the MVP this year. I want to know what y'all thinking. Stay tuned for more content. We'll be back, and catch y'all next time.